going to be demonetized.
Hello, audioholics. This is Logan. This is Logan, and welcome to the final part of Bracketeering. And as the song brilliantly vocalizes, this is the final countdown, the final match of what the best album is on this list. I'm sorry, this is just fucking awful. We need to turn it off. Oh my god, that is one of my best ideas I've ever had. That worked out so much better than even I thought it would. All right.
He's so proud of himself now.
Right, so explain how we're going to be doing this final thing. First of all, this is part 3, so I recommend you watch part 1 and 2 first.
As you can see, I've zoomed out so you can see both sides. I kind of put our cameras over here, but you're just gonna have to like ignore the fact that they're covering some albums. There was nowhere else to put it. Where do you want me to put it? You want me to put it here? It looks stupid. So yeah, let's go on and just get started. So Blue Murder versus Holy Diver by Dio. You get
Blue Murder.
Blue Murder.
Blue Murder.
All right, and why would you say Blue Murder over Dio then?
I love Blue Murder because it is a very unique album and really just kind of ahead of its time, kind of doing like the whole funk metal thing. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm just not a fan of Dio's solo career. I would rather listen to any Rainbow Dio album or any Sabbath Dio album that isn't The Devil You Know. I mean, Dio is definitely very talented, but I have to give that one to Blue Murder.
All right. Now, for me, it's Blue Murder versus Moving Pictures. Now, this one is very difficult because I really love both of those albums, but I think I'm going to have to give the edge slightly to Moving Pictures, for the reasons that I outlined before. But really what it comes down to is Moving Pictures is a fantastic, well-written album, and Blue Murder is just a fantastic rock record. You know, it's not like something that's going to blow your socks off. It's not like 10 million out of 10 composition or anything like that.
Blew my fucking
and
socks
Rush
off,
is.
and I don't even wear socks.
Rush is. All right. So now to the right side, Deep Purple and Rock versus Metal Health, Quiet Riot.
Led Zeppelin versus what, Metal Health, you said?
No,
sorry.
Deep Purple in Rock versus Quiet Riot, Metal Health.
This might be a controversial pick for some people, but I'm actually going to have to pick Quiet Riot.
Oh, that hurts me.
Look, I think that they are both fantastic albums. Don't get me wrong. I mean, honestly, well, I was going to say the fact that they've gotten this far makes them fantastic. Well, if you've seen the video, you know that's not necessarily true. But I would have to say that Quiet Riot is just overall more consistently good. I think both of these albums are kind of front-ended, but I think Quiet Riot, Metal Health, if we're talking from what I personally like, is a little bit stronger. I would listen to both of these albums in a heartbeat, though.
All right, and for me, it's going to be the exact same thing, but I'm going to pick Deep Purple in Rock because, again, it really comes down to one album is just kind of like junk food in comparison to the other, you know? Like, Blue Murder is not junk food. Like, it's not chips or anything, but it is kind of like like when you go out to eat and you get an appetizer like jalapeno poppers. Jalapeno poppers
Yeah,
are amazing. You wouldn't consider that junk food, but like
I
it's
would.
definitely not
But
the
yeah, I see
entree.
what you're getting. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I
that's
think it's
kind of how I
more.
feel about it.
I think it's more like those like Brussels sprouts with cheese on them. Like, yeah, the
Yeah, that's a
cheese
good
kind of
comparison too.
negates the whole health aspect, but it makes them taste a lot better.
Yeah, and for me, like the entree is always the best part of a meal, so I have to pick Child in Time over anything on Metal Health alone.
Yeah, I can
Bloodsucker,
understand
Speed
that.
King, you know.
That's
All
not.
right.
Yeah, that's not
So
something I could reasonably disagree with or reasonably argue.
now for your next one, you have Led Zeppelin 4 by Led Zeppelin versus Human by Death. You don't even need to tell me.
Yeah, take a wild fucking guess.
It's Death.
Obviously. No, Led Zeppelin 4, I just have so much nostalgia for this album. I mean, I've said it all in the first part, go check it out, but Stairway to Heaven, not overplayed, could never be overplayed. It's such a fantastic song. Black Dog, yeah, maybe it's one of the weaker songs on the album, but like, I think it's still a pretty good hard rocker. When the Levee Breaks, one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs of all time. Just fantastic.
All right, and for me, it's going to be Number of the Beast versus Death, and I'm going to give it to Death. Number of the Beast is great. The only reason it beat Zeppelin is because it Zeppelin is more overplayed. Zeppelin has less songs that I enjoy, less songs I have nostalgia for. I still don't love Number of the Beast. Death, however, I really love Human. I love that album. I love the themes of that album. I love the sound of that album. I love the riffing, the vocals. I really love the lyrics. I can't stress how much I love the lyrics enough. Like Together Is One. How many metal bands? Fuck that. How many songs can you think of off of the top of your head that would even dare to tackle what it's like to be a Siamese twin? That's such an insanely specific thing to talk about in a song, and nobody talks about it. You
We
know?
are Siamese, if you please.
Die. No,
That's
but like
technically about being Siamese.
it's just, and obviously the song about euthanasia, Suicide Machine, that's not the first song Death has done about euthanasia. Pull the Plug from Leprosy was about euthanasia, and I think Pull the Plug's probably a better song, but Suicide Machine is still amazing. And just so many awesome lyrical themes on that album. Number of the Beast is good, but there's a few songs on it I'm just like, eh, Children of the Damned is a good song, but what's the one song like Gang or something like that?
Ganglands, yeah.
Ganglands. I hate that song. That is complete filler. All right. So for your next choice, you get Secret Treaties versus Van Halen.
Oh, that's tough. Um, well, my apologies to the late great what's his name? Albert Bichard, right?
No, he's not dead. Alan Lanier died
No, Albert
in like
Bichard is
2013.
totally. Albert Bichard again will be dead by the time this video is posted. So my
Oh,
heart
probably.
goes out
Fair.
to him. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna have to say that's a tough one, honestly. I'm gonna have to say maybe Secret Treaties. It's really difficult though. They're both 10 out of 10 albums. I would put either one on any day of the week. I think that they're both consistently good. Maybe the reason I put Secret Treaties above Van Halen though is because they don't have this doesn't have any radio hits. Like Blue Oyster Cult really only has like 2 radio hits that I can immediately think of. And that's just Don't Fear the Reaper and Burning for You. But
There were
and
others
Godzilla,
that got playtime.
Godzilla. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Godzilla. There were others that got playtime, but those are the big ones, yeah.
yeah.
All right, so for mine, it's Blue Oyster Cult versus Van Halen as well. Obviously, Blue Oyster Cult. You know, I have my problems with Van Halen. I don't have any problems with Secret Treaties. I love that album. The only somewhat meh song on it, KG Cretins, is still super fun, and I love listening to it. So, yeah, easy one for me. All right, so next you get to choose between Hair of the Dog by Nazareth and Sad Wings of Destiny by Judas Priest.
That is really hard, but I'm going to have to say Hair of the Dog. Honestly, like that's a lot. Like when you said those, it was like, oh, that would be easy, Hair of the Dog. Now I had to think about that for a second because Sad Wings of Destiny is still a really good album. It has some it has like some parts in it though, namely kind of like the more acoustic parts, and also just like Rob Halford's voice hasn't totally filled in yet. I will say though, I was talking in the one part about how Changing Times sounds a lot like Black Dog by Led Zeppelin. Victim of Changes sounds a lot like both of those songs as well, I think. They kind of all have like that similar sort of like no real chorus, just kind of like it's almost like listing things off. Like it's almost like that kind of style. And I like that style. So yeah, Hair of the Dog, it's just overall a very consistently good album. Please Don't Judas Me, title track, even Love Hurts, I'd say is a really good song. Beggar's Day, Changing Times, Miss Misery, Whiskey Woman, 10 out of 10.
All right, and for me, it's going to be Rust in Peace versus Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix. Rust in Peace wins.
Yep.
That's not even a contest for me. Rust in Peace, as I said in the first part, is one of the best records. You know, I've been debating with myself for a long time as to what I consider the absolute best thrash metal record of all time to be. And I think I've decided that it's either The New Order by Testament, which isn't on this list. I wanted to put it here, but I couldn't find it in any of those lists. So it would kind of just be a personal pick, and it seems unfair.
I mean, you did it with Opeth, so.
But that was actually on a lot of lists.
Oh.
Iced Earth was too, actually.
Not, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
But, well, I guess not that specific Iced Earth album, but like that's the one I chose to do instead of the one they listed. Anyway, Rust in Peace. It's so hard for me to choose between that and The New Order as the best thrash metal record of all time because they're just both so fucking amazing, you know? I think like I knew from the start of this that Rust in Peace was going to get far. I can tell you it's got a really good chance of winning. It's probably going to come down to that and something else in the end. That's my prediction. We'll see. I don't know what it has to go up against, but yeah. All right, Logan, your turn again. Tool Lateralis versus Accept Balls to the Wall.
Oh, fuck, why? Lateralis, I guess.
Yeah. I guess.
All right.
Don't really like either, but you got to choose one.
Yeah.
All right. So
I guess just
pick,
because it is more technically, like just technically a better album.
Yeah. So for mine, oh no, Candlemass versus Opeth. That's cruel.
Oh shit! Fuck you. That's what you get for making me pick between dog shit and slightly less concentrated dog shit.
Damn it. I guess Opeth. I mean, like, I love
Why?
Nightfall, but there's a reason that it's not ever been my number one album, and I think that reason comes down to it's just not as good as some out. Like, In the Court of the Crimson King is just better, Rust in Peace, it's just better. And as much as I love Nightfall, I can't really argue that, I would rather listen to Rust in Peace than Nightfalls. And that's really what it comes down to with Opeth too. Like, I would rather listen to Still Life than Nightfall on pretty much any day of the week. But if you wanted me to stretch for like a musical reason, okay, Opeth is one of the most unique and consistently amazing bands of all time. They are so diverse. Within one song on this album, you get like 10 different genres. And Opeth has their own unique, distinctive stamp on each of them. They go from like jazz to folk to blues rock to death metal to thrash. And all of it has like this very distinctive Opeth sound to it, despite being so many different genres. You can't really say that about Candlemass. Candlemass, in the end of the day, is just Black Sabbath fan fiction,
Seems like you really had an epiphany when listening to it.
Opethany. Yeah. All right. Blizzard of Oz versus Dark Side of the Moon.
Take a shitty fucking guess.
Blizzard of Oz.
Look, Blizzard of Oz is a great album, but Dark Side of the Moon, last I checked, and in fact, let me just... Yeah, Dark Side of the Moon is in fact Dark Side of the Moon.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say about that one?
Yeah, it's Dark Side of the Moon. You've already heard it.
So Boston for me versus Dark Side of the Moon. What he said. Okay, so Logan, Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses versus Crystal Logic by Manila Road.
Appetite for Destruction. Now my condolences do go to the late Giuseppe Manila Road, but no, it's Manila Road.
You were about to trigger me. I was about to fight you. You're seriously putting Appetite for Destruction over Crystal Logic. You just did that to piss me off, was what I was thinking.
I didn't think you would fall for it. I didn't think you were that gullible.
Apparently I am. No, I just realized you can be such a hipster sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, the worst Metallica album is Master of Puppets. Saint Anger is better.
I never said that. I said Death Magnetic is worse than Saint Anger, which
no, but like you defended Saint Anger for a long time. You're like, Saint Anger's not as bad as everyone says.
I did, but like I for a long time I thought Death Magnetic was worse than Saint Anger, and like
I mean, you still don't like it, right?
Yeah, I still don't like it, but I like it more than Saint Anger, I guess.
Better than Saint Anger. All right. For me, it's the same choice. Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction versus Crystal Logic Manila Road. Do I even need to explain to you why Manila Road is winning here?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you need to explain it to me. Explain in grave detail how Appetite for Destruction is in any way worse than Crystal Logic.
Oh, man. Well, let's just start with the album art.
Okay, enough detail.
What the fuck even is the album art for Guns N' Roses? It's just like
not even the well, that's not the original album art.
It's not? What's the original album art?
The original album art, you have to look up like the Guns N' Roses band album art.
I'm going to look it up right now because I don't think I've ever seen a different album art for Appetite for Destruction.
I have there's like technically 3. That's just the latest reissue. But no, Crystal Logic, I mean, like, Necropolis alone blows everything Guns N' Roses ever even thought of out of the water.
Wow, that actually isn't lame.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck even is that? It's like a monster?
Yeah, well, I think they have like a band. They had one that was actually banned, and that might be like the second one, but I'm not sure.
Either way, yeah. I mean, Crystal Logic is just better in every way. Okay, so Master of Puppets versus Riot Thundersteel.
Riot. Riot
Really? Okay.
because Riot because I think I just like that style better, and maybe I just think like some songs like Master of Puppets or Enter Sanitarium, I think they might be overplayed.
Enter Sanitarium. I think you got a song confused there.
Whatever. Welcome home, Sanitarium. At least it wasn't
Run
as
to
bad
the
as the.
Trooper by Maiden.
Why don't we
Okay,
do it in
okay.
the Sexy Sadie? All right.
Okay, so for me, it was Pantera versus Savatage, Vulgar Display of Power versus Hall of the Mountain King. You know what, Logan? What do you think I'm gonna pick? What do you think? Take a guess.
I have no fucking clue. Probably Pantera.
I'm picking Savatage.
Okay.
All right. So listen. Here's the thing with Pantera. Pantera has one thing that makes them amazing. Let me give you a hint. His name starts with D. It's Dimebag Daryl. If
Douchebag
it weren't
Daryl?
if it weren't for douchebag Daryl, no, if it weren't for Dimebag, Pantera would suck. Pantera's entire career, everything they have literally ever done relies on Dimebag's riffs. Phil Anselmo is not a bad singer. Sing back to me one singular fucking melody in the entirety of Pantera's career. I dare you. Other than the respect thing from Walk. That doesn't count.
Walk! Walk! Walk!
Yeah, that doesn't count.
I can walk! Walk!
Yeah, you can't because Anselmo does not write good melodies. His lyrics are not all that great either. I don't know if he writes lyrics actually, but either way, Pantera lyrics are not amazing. Pantera's song structure, again, it's all centered around the guitar. Every single section of the song is like, oh, okay, Dimebag's intro riff, Dimebag's second intro riff, Dimebag's main riff, Dimebag's verse riff, Dimebag. Everything about Pantera is reliant on Dimebag. And that makes him kind of a one-trick pony in my book. I
So
love
just
Vinnie Paul's drumming, but he's not the centerpiece of Pantera.
now
It's
something I
always
just
been
kind of
Dimebag.
wonder. Something I
What?
kind of wonder. Would it be any more different? Would it be any more difficult if you would have picked Master of Puppets?
If I had picked Master of Puppets, I think it probably would have beaten Sabotage.
Okay.
Now, let me explain that a little bit. So, I think Pantera beats Master of Puppets, but Master of Puppets beats Sabotage.
Yeah, I
Now,
had a couple albums sort of like that.
it's weird because if you think about that, you're saying, okay, so you're saying Pantera is better than Master of Puppets, but you're saying that Sabotage is better than Pantera. So,
They're
how is
different.
Master of
They're
Puppets better than
different.
Sabotage?
They're like different.
It's different comparisons, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, when you're comparing Pantera and Metallica, what you have to come down to is Pantera as a band is just technically better. Like, Metallica writes better melodies and things like that, but Pantera has better riffing. They're probably more influential, at least from that album's perspective. You know, Dimebag's considered one of the best guitar players of all time for a reason. You compare that to Savatage, though, and now you're talking about, like, metal in general, you know, not just like thrash and groove metal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
I don't feel like I'm articulating myself well. So like the thing with metal is that like thrash metal and groove metal are very focused on riffing, okay? That's the centerpiece. But with metal in general, it's vocals, it's, you know, the bass, the drums, it's everything. It's not just riffing. So, like with Metallica, I think Pantera has better riffs, and that's pretty much why they won. But Sabotage is a better like album overall than Vulgar Display of Power. That's
You know,
basically what I'm saying.
I'll tell you something about metal. Now, Copper gets a pretty bad rap. But I think it is, and controversial opinion, I think it is better than Zinc. All right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
both of those are vastly inferior to stainless steel.
But back to
That's
what I
just
was
my
saying about
personal opinion.
Pantera.
Okay,
Before
shut
we
up.
move
Your
on.
opinions suck.
Before we move on, back to what I was saying about Pantera. Like Dimebag is the centerpiece of that band. You take him away and Pantera has nothing. That's the biggest problem with Pantera. And I think the same thing is true of Metallica. I think you take away Hetfield's riffs and Metallica turns into,
Megadeth.
well, I mean, no, not Megadeth. I would say they'd probably turn into like Shinedown or something like that. You know, like some sort of poppy rock band. But yeah, so that's basically why Sabotage wins. Maybe I need to make a video about this at some point, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. Okay, Blackout
My turn.
Scorpions versus Who's Next by The Who.
Oh, fuck. Why do you make me do these things? Who's Next by The Who? It's just, I think, a more diverse album. I think it is, yeah, more diverse and just overall. Again, the only problem with Who's Next is what I was saying before is that it could have been a lot better, but woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's still a fantastic fucking album.
Yeah. All
They're
right, and
both
for
really
me,
good. It's just like I think Scorpions is maybe a little bit more on the junk food side.
yeah, kinda. So for me, it's Melissa Merciful Fate versus Aqualung by Jethro Tull. Um, honestly, this isn't even like this is apples and oranges. You're comparing like
Yeah, we're gonna get
this.
comparisons like that.
I know, but this one's just like completely different things. There are
Yeah,
elements of prog in Merciful Fate, but like Jethro Tull is like folk proggy, like it's just completely different. I guess
and
like
there are
musically it's
elements of
impossible.
and there are elements of black metal even in Jethro Tull's Aqualung. You of course remember the famous stage show where Ian Anderson came out in a demon suit and fucked a baby goat on stage. It's like just
What do you think the
wonderful,
flute
like
is made out of?
deceptively. Exactly.
Or piccolo or
It's made.
whatever.
The flute. It's made out of a it's made out of skin. Actually, it's a skin flute.
Ah, man, I guess Aqualung. Why? Because I prefer prog.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, Burnt Offerings versus Awake by Dream Theater.
Burnt Offerings. I I really like Burnt Offerings. I only kind of like Awake by Dream Theater. I think that I need to listen to Burnt Offerings again to really, truly appreciate it, but I think as of right now, I think it's really good. And plus, that fucking album art, man. That album art alone just like screams, this is an amazing album that deserves to be better than Awake by Dream Theater.
Agreed. Yeah, so pretty much same pick for me. It's gonna be Burnt Offerings over Abigail. I'm going to save my love of. I'm gonna go on like a little bit of a fanboy rant about Burnt Offerings, but I'm gonna save it for later. So next, Bloody Kisses by Typo Negative versus Black Sabbath Master of Reality.
See, okay. Typo Negative is one of my, or Bloody Kisses is definitely my favorite Typo Negative album.
It's the
Master
only
of
one you've heard,
Puppets.
right?
No, I heard another one. I can't remember which one it was. October Rust. I heard that one and I didn't like it as much. That being said, Master of Puppets is not my favorite Black Sabbath album. It would probably be Volume
Master
4.
of Puppets.
Master of Reality. It would either be Volume 4 or Sabotage for me. But if I
Yeah.
had to say something, I would say Bloody Kisses by Typo Negative. I think it's a little bit on the long side. So I would have to no. Master of Reality.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, mainly just because Typo
So
Negative, all Typo Negative albums kind of drag a bit. And that's really the only flaw, I think.
we're hitting the final stretch here, my boy. We're hitting the final stretch. All right. So for me, it was Gojira versus Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath wins. You know, I
Lucky
love
Sabbath-san.
Gojira, but Black Sabbath is just on Black Sabbath. It's just on another level, man. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. Like Gojira is amazing, and maybe
Black
one day
Senpai.
they'll prove to be influential, but they will never hit the level of influence that Black Sabbath has. And
So
like
you
the pure
prefer
quality of
So you prefer
songwriting.
Gojira-san over Black Senpai?
No, I chose Black Sabbath.
Black Senpai.
I think
Okay, got it.
I think like Gojira's compositional chops and songwriting chops are better than Black Sabbath's, but Black Sabbath's album here created an entire genre, hugely influential.
True.
You know, it's just better. All right, so let's move on to Blue Murder versus Led Zeppelin 4.
Oh god, now it's getting difficult. I'll say this. I've actually only heard the Blue Murder album today, whereas Led Zeppelin 4 I've heard all my life. But fuck me sideways. That is really tough. I mean, like, Blue Murder is more technically impressive than Led Zeppelin 4, but I think Led Zeppelin 4, I'm going to have to give the nod to Led Zeppelin 4. I think that it just has more memorable songs, perhaps. Blue Murder definitely has some memorable songs, don't get me wrong, but yeah. Led Zeppelin 4 is Led Zeppelin 4, so.
Now for me, it's Moving Pictures versus Death Human. This is a really hard one for me too, but I think I have to give the edge slightly to Human. Moving Pictures is a great album, but it's not my favorite Rush album.
Agreed.
I think Death is better. We're getting to the point where it's literally just preference. Like, there is no musical argument for this. It's just preference.
Yeah.
I would rather listen to Human than Moving Pictures. All right. So, Quiet Riot Metal Health versus Secret Treaties Blue Oyster Cult.
Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, honestly, it's kind of amazing that Metal Health has been able to get this far, but
yeah. I know, right?
Secret Treaties by Blue Oyster Cult is just a phenomenal album, back to front.
Back to the front. You will do what I say when I say.
Final Countdown.
I love that song. By the way, same pick for me. I love In Rock, but Blue Oyster Cult is one of my favorite bands. You know what? Just straight up, they're my favorite classic rock band. Just straight up, they're my favorite classic rock band. They're better than Uriah Heep. They're better than Deep Purple. They're better than Led Zeppelin. They're better than Rush. They're better than all of those guys. They're my favorite. By hands down, my favorite. Do they have as perfect a discography as some of those bands? No. But Blue Oyster Cult, the highs in their career, in my opinion, tickle my musical preferences more so than any other classic rock band has. Now, of course, we're talking rock. If we go into the realm of metal, then we start to talk about some of these other bands, which will probably beat.
Would you say that Blue Oyster Cult is better than King Crimson?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
Like consistently good. You're right.
Core of the Crimson King is a better album, but Blue Oyster Cult overall has more good albums than King Crimson, in my opinion.
Next time
All
we do
right.
this, you have to put King Crimson on the tier list. That'll make things a lot more interesting.
I did that on purpose because I was going
Yeah.
to, and I took it off because like I felt like it would just ruthlessly dominate everything,
True.
like the Beatles would.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even be fun. All right, so the next one is here we go. Hair of the Dog, Nazareth versus Dark Side of the Moon.
I was fucking afraid of this. Pass.
Choose one, and
Pass.
you can't listen to the other ever again.
Pass. No. You know what? I think lyrically, vocally, and just variety-wise, and just overall technically, I have to give the nod to Dark Side of the Moon. That is honestly one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in my life in a very long time, though.
Just in your life, that's how serious this decision was.
Exactly. It's just like...
All right. Well, for me,
of course, the second hardest decision I've had to make in my life is which Spice Girl I want to impregnate. But
the right answer is all of them.
Yeah.
Megadeth's Rust in Peace versus Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Well, we all know what you would choose.
Yeah.
But
that one's a lot easier.
Not me.
Can I like not have? Can I pretend that Nazareth Hair of the Dog isn't like my favorite album of all time and just go to Rust in Peace? Because like that is a much easier decision.
I gotta give it to Rust in Peace. I love Pink Floyd,
you bastard.
But for all the reasons I've outlined before, Rust in Peace is my baby, man. I love that album. It's so good. It's got some of the best guitar solos of any metal album, period. Tornado of Souls, possibly the best solo of all time. Possibly. I'm not going to go that far yet. I'm actually working on a top 10 solos of all time list. You'll see it sometime this century. Tornado of Souls is on there, and for good fucking reason. Lucretia, amazing fucking solo. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. I'm just saying it that way. You know, just Rust in Peace, Polaris, that song, so many amazing guitar moments. This is probably the best guitar album on this list. Like, of all the amazing albums on this list, this might be the best one if you're listening for the guitar. All right. Next for you, we have Thundersteel versus Burnt Offerings.
Thundersteel. Definitely. Like I said, I've only ever really heard Burnt Offerings today, and so far I only like moderately like that album. It has some really good stuff on it, but come on, Thundersteel, I grew up with that album.
It grows on you. I'll tell you that much.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. I think if I heard it a few more times, I think this would be a much more difficult decision to make. But right now, it's fairly easy. Thundersteel, Riot.
Yeah, like the first time I heard Burnt Offerings, I hated it. I thought it sounded like almost like extreme metal in the first song.
Oh,
I was
no,
like, ugh.
No, I definitely don't hate it. I think it's a fine album.
Leave the sacrifice. I don't know. I just thought it was like bad. So, but like the second time I listened to it, I started getting into it. And then by like the third and fourth time, I was really loving it. Now I can't stop listening to it. Like all the time I'm listening to this album.
We've tried.
Anyway, we'll get into this more.
We've called, the police to bust down his door because, he hasn't been able to eat, sleep, or even defecate properly after listening to this album. But, he's on a medical cocktail of different steroids and medications, and now I think he's slowly returning to normal.
No, I'm just becoming more retarded with age.
Yeah, fair enough. That too. Anyway.
So, Burnt Offerings versus Sabotage. Burnt Offerings. Next. No, I'll justify it. I'll justify it. Listen, what I was saying about Pantera. Pantera is a very guitar-driven album, and basically nothing else is to the same quality, right? Sabotage consistently across all of the members and the songwriting and all of that, much better. But when compared to Burnt Offerings, this is some of the most technical thrash guitar playing I've ever heard. It's heavy. Matt Barlow is one of the best vocalists of all time. He has such a range. He can do anything from like death screams to high pitched King Diamond stuff to like low vocals to like pop punk sounding type stuff. He can do anything. Matt Barlow is a fucking sane vocalist. Beats Sabotage any fucking day of the week. Any day of the week. The drumming on this album, everything about it, and all of it culminating with Dante's Inferno. 16 of the best minutes I've ever spent on a metal song, slowly going through each circle of hell and culminating with seeing Lucifer at the end. Lucifer, god of ice. Fucking badass,
and just the attention to detail. Like they even made the CD a circle. That's just amazing.
Yeah, nobody else thought to do that.
Exactly.
Wendy's comes along. We make our CDs square. Yeah, so Burnt Offerings. I told you I'd go on that rant.
Yep.
Oh God, I just realized it's probably gonna go down to Rust in Peace versus Burnt Offerings on the left side. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Fuck you. All right. So it looks like you're on the right side now. The right side of life.
Always
Oyster Cult. Oh wait, no. Tool, Lateralis versus Crystal Logic, Manila Road.
Crystal Logic.
Easily, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna be totally honest. I'm not like a huge fan of either one of those albums, but
you need to give Crystal Logic another listen.
I do.
That album blew me the fuck away.
I do. Yeah, I was the one who got you into it, and even I'm like, yeah, like Necropolis is an amazing song. I don't know about the rest of the album.
All right.
As long as there are other songs on the album that sound like Necropolis, I'm down.
For me, it's going to be Opeth's Still Life versus Chris. Almost called it Necropolis versus Manila Road's Crystal Logic.
Necropolis, Relopolis, Crystallopolis.
You want to know what puts Opeth above Crystal Logic? It's just, it's the difference between an Olympic runner and a high school athlete. Like one is just so much better at their craft than the other one. As much as I love Crystal Logic as an album, it only really does one thing. It's kind of a one-trick pony. It's not a long album.
I kind of wish I had listened to that Opeth album, because that would have been a much more difficult decision, I think, if I had.
Yeah, but we're doing this on Audioholics Unite, which is why he didn't listen to it. But,
okay.
Yeah. So like the thing with Opeth is that, like I said earlier, they do all of these different styles and they have a unique sound in all of them. They do all of these things better than I've heard any other band do them. Crystal Logic just has one thing. And Opeth does that one thing better than Crystal Logic does, so fuck you. Opeth kind of has power metal moments on this. I mean, kind of has power metal moments. I wouldn't say it's like, Dragon Force. Like, no, but like they have really fast riffing in certain parts of this album, and it's just better. It's just better. All right.
Is it better?
It's just better. It's just better.
Just better.
It's just better. It's just better. All right. Who's next versus Master of Reality? Hit me, baby.
Well,
can see your soul just slowly draining away from this.
This is my logic, my crystal logic, perhaps. Uh, so, Who's Next is my favorite Who album. Master of Reality is not my favorite Black Sabbath album. It's very good, but it's not my favorite. Who's Next is back to front amazing. Master of Reality, for the most part, is apart from Solitude. So, by that logic, I am going with Who's Next by The Who.
Okay. So for me, it's Aqualung versus Master of Reality. Master of Reality. That's barely even a choice for me. Like, Aqualung has only gotten as far as it has because it only went against Merciful Fate and The Who. The Who I hate. Merciful Fate I just think is worse. If it had gone against, Typo Negative, Gojira, Anthrax, Crystal Logic, like half of this list, it would have lost way sooner. Master of Reality has real chops. It could have beaten basically every band I just mentioned. I mean, it did beat Gojira, and it would have beaten everybody else, I think, maybe except Crystal Logic. Maybe. So, yeah. It's gotta be Black Sabbath. It's gotta be. There's no comparison there. All right, so you've got your picks up here. All right, so on your side, it's going to be Led Zeppelin 4 versus Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of easy. Like, again, it's the same thing. Like, Led Zeppelin 4 only really got as far as it did because it only went against Iron Maiden and Dio. Like, what if it had gone against Hair of the Dog? It would have won, right?
No,
Hair
it
of the
would have
Dog would have
lost.
won.
Yeah, Hair of the
That's what
Dog
I
would have
mean.
totally won.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because, like, Zeppelin 4 is not even my favorite Zeppelin album. That would have to probably be Presence or maybe Houses of the Holy, but probably Presence.
That's kind of why I like these bracket fights, though, because instead of
Yeah.
just like doing a ranking, like it's tiered. So the albums
Yeah,
that
this is
may
fun.
have not gotten this far would get this far because of that.
Yeah.
All right, so for me, it's gonna be Death versus Megadeth, and I feel like that alone says it all. One is just a death, and the other one is mega death. That's all I got to say about that.
There you go.
There you go. No,
Yeah,
I'll justify
you get
it
more.
a little.
You get more for your money, I think.
I'll justify it a little bit.
Also, I hate humans, so. Yeah.
Here's the main justification. Death has one song on it that's not that great. I think it's called Vacant. There's one song on the album that I don't like very much. Megadeth is perfect from front to back. Therefore, it wins. Also, there is no solo on this album that is anywhere near as good as Tornado of Souls. Okay, moving on. Secret Treaties versus Crystal Logic.
Secret Treaties. Honestly, again, Crystal Logic has only gotten as far as it has because it was against like some not too stellar albums, I think.
All right. Do you have anything else to say about that, or is that it?
I mean, like Secret Treaties. Like I said, I listened to that with my girlfriend just the other day, and it gets better with every listen.
It does. It really does.
And she, by the way, she's like, I mean, she's into a lot of different kinds of music, but she's into like, modern pop, mainstream classic rock, things like, Don't Stop Believing, Jesse's Girl, things like that. And she fell in love with not only Secret Treaties, but the other album I listened to by them, which was the new one. So, I mean, if it can convert my girlfriend, who is, not maybe as in tune with music as we are, like putting that in the nicest way possible, you know, I think it's an amazing album, and I think this should be considered Blue Oyster Cult's finest hour, just even objectively.
All right, and for me, it's Secret Treaties versus Still Life. Still Life wins. All right, now this one was really hard for me. I had to think about it while he was talking. So, okay, I've talked a lot about the variety that Still Life has on that album, but Blue Oyster Cult touts that variety too. You know, Astronomy is it's kind of like a Stairway to Heaven-esque song. It starts very slow, and it slowly ramps up like, and, you know, it's great. Harvester of Eyes, I Am the One You Warned Me Of. Oh, wait, no, Career of Evil's on this album. That's off Imaginos. Career of Evil. Um, so many good songs on Blue Oyster Cult's album, but
Flaming Telepaths,
yeah.
Dominance and Submission. It's just so good.
Dominance, Submission, Radio Superior.
Like, and honestly, like, just to go back to Led Zeppelin 4 for a second, something I was reminded of. Like, Stairway to Heaven, love it or hate it, you have to at least acknowledge how influential. It's so influential that every song that starts soft and builds up to something really heavy is immediately compared to Stairway to Heaven. That's how influential that song is.
Yeah, I'll give it that.
Like, we've even done it a couple times in this video.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway,
I just do it because it's a well-known example of that trope.
So, Still Life, why is it better than Blue Oyster Cult?
So, Blue Oyster Cult has all of those songs, but as a cohesive package, it kind of just feels like a bunch of songs thrown together. Still Life, on the other hand, is a concept album. It tells a very Shakespearean tale. And as a result, every song sort of feels like it needs to be in that order, you know? And for the record, you can listen to any of these songs outside of the album. You don't have to listen to the whole album to hear Serenity Painted Death. In fact, I listen to that song by itself all the fucking time. Same thing with every other song on the album. So it not only flows super coherently and super well together, but you can listen to all of the songs separately and not feel as if you're ripping parts of context away from the album.
Yeah.
Blue Oyster Cult doesn't have that cohesion. Also, vocals better. Now, moving on to your next incredibly difficult pick. Oh, wait. Let me make sure we're all caught up. Okay, so we're on the absolute final frontier here. We have 4 contenders left each. For Logan, we have Dark Side of the Moon. We have Riot Thundersteel. We have Who's Next, and we have Secret Treaties. For me, it is Rust in Peace, Burnt Offerings, Master of Reality, and Still Life by Opeth. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to do the left and right, and then I'll do the left and right, and then we'll finally pick our winners. So Logan, go ahead and go first. Dark Side of the Moon or Thundersteel?
Take a wild guess. Of course, Dark Side of the Moon is one of my favorite albums of all time for all of the reasons that I've mentioned. Again, just final rant to wrap everything up. Amazing.
Well, not yet.
Well,
not yet. It's still got to go against one other thing.
Yeah. So, I see. And then like you can, I see how that works. Okay. But yeah, Dark Side of the Moon.
All right, and now Secret Treaties or Who's Next?
Fuck me sideways. Oh my god. You know what? This is one of those where like don't pick Who's Next. I haven't picked that yet.
It was my prediction.
Well, I don't know, because either way, no matter which one I pick, I'm going to kick myself with the other one. So I'm going to say You know what? Just so I can say fuck you, I'm going to say Secret Treaties by Blue Oyster Cult.
I knew it. You're just saying that because you don't want me to be right.
I don't want you to be right. Honestly, like either way.
But I was, though.
You know
You were going to
what
pick
though?
who's next.
I don't know. I don't know because like. You know what? I'm going to pick who's next just because I think it'll be more interesting to try to decide which one's better between that and Dark Side of the Moon.
All right. My turn. Fuck! Rust in Peace or Burnt Offerings? God fucking damn it. God fucking damn it. I should have made sure Burnt Offerings was on the right side. That way this wouldn't happen.
Well, then it would have to go against Still Life, though.
Okay, but that would be easy. Still Life would win. I guess I probably just spoiled it. Oh, yeah. It's going to be Burnt Offerings over Rust in Peace. So I guess I have to justify this a little more than I usually do. So here's what it comes down to. Rust in Peace front to back is a masterpiece. Fuck, I just hit my mic. Masterpiece. Masterpiece album. Okay? I've touted how the amazing guitar work on that album is, but Iced Earth has a heavier album. It has a darker album. It has an album that's written about things like Romeo and Juliet, Dante's Inferno. These are things that kind of, tickle my pickle a little more, if you get my drift.
Are you trying to say that you are sexually aroused to this album, good sir?
Maybe. Yeah, no, this album makes me erect in all of the right ways. And so does Rust in Peace, but one album has great vocals and the other one has Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, well,
No, but like the riffing is at least on par with Rust in Peace, right? Like Schaefer is one of the best guitarists in thrash metal, and I think he really shows his chops on this album. Even from the first fucking riff of the album, your mind is going, "Ooh, holy fucking shit, that is heavy as fuck." In Rust in Peace, it's more like, "Oh yeah, dude, that's fucking yeah, dude." It's a different feel, and personally, I prefer the super heavy, dark atmosphere of Burnt Offerings. I said to Logan, the greatest thing about this album is that it feels like you're being burnt alive in hell as you listen to it in the best possible way.
Yeah. That sounds like a fucking hoot.
It sounds like a hoot and a holler.
Sounds like a hoot nanny.
My next one is Black Sabbath, Master of Reality versus Still Life Opeth.
I wish I really wish that it was. I wish it was Master of Puppets versus Master of Reality. That'd be fucking amazing.
That would be amazing. It could have happened. Master of Reality was on left.
Yeah.
Master of Reality was on right. Yeah. So Opeth wins. For all of the reasons I've been talking about, as for why it beat Secret Treaties, as for why it beat everything else, Master of Reality is a great album, but it is flawed. It has Solitude on it, which takes you out of the album a little bit. And honestly, in just pure songwriting quality, songs like Sweet Leaf are not as good as songs like The More. Into the Void is a great song. It's amazingly written. Lord of This World, on the other hand, is like, it's a great song, but is it as good as Serenity, Pain, and Death or The Face of Melinda? No way. There's just no way, no fucking way you could make that argument. So it's just a pure quality thing. Black Sabbath back in their day, this was impressive. Opeth would not exist were it not for this album. Opeth would not even have the chance to exist because this album laid the groundwork for metal in general going forward. And I give it a lot of credit for that. But because it was the first, it isn't the best. And that's just usually how it works. If you're the first one who does something 9.9 times out of 10, you are not going to be the one who's best at it, All right. So we are now down to our final picks. For Logan, it is Dark Side of the Moon versus Who's Next. And for me, it is Burnt Offerings versus Still Life. Logan, why don't you? Just kidding. I'll go first. No, I'm kidding. You can go first.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this while he was going on his fucking
Rant.
mega tirade. So it's Dark Side. It's Dark Side because this is how I see it. Both of these albums have insane amounts of variety. Both of these albums, front to back, are perfect. And both of these albums, I think, have great writing, great instrumentals. I think Dark Side of the Moon, though, it changed my life. I remember that I actually had not heard this entire album. I think it might have been my dad who was like, "Oh, you need to listen to this album because," I think it was like, yeah, my dad was like, "Oh, you need to listen to this album because it's really good on vinyl and you need to listen to it with headphones." I got it from the record store, local record store called First Floor Attic. Tyler's been there as well. It's owned by a really nice guy, gives us all discounts, really cool, just kind of friendly guy. I took it home, I put it on the turntable. My headphones actually broke. So I think I crushed them or something. So I had to tape them together just to listen to this album, and this was the last thing that they were used to play with. I put the album on, and I was just and then when I was done, I went up, I talked to my dad, and I basically told him this is nothing I've ever heard before. About 8 years later, this is still nothing I've really ever heard before, including other Pink Floyd albums. There's a lot of albums by Pink Floyd, by Beck, by Kate Bush, by I don't know, Vampire Weekend, by Arcade Fire, that have tried to replicate the style of this album. None of them come close. They are all very good albums. Arcade Fire has what is it? I think Modern Life, I think is what it's called. Suburban Life or something like that. Kate Bush obviously has a lot of good albums. Pink Floyd even has Wish You Were Here, which is a very distant which is a very close second place album. But
So
Dark
if
Side of
this
the
were
Moon,
Wish You Were Here instead, do you think it would have gotten this far?
What was
It would have gone against Blizzard of Oz, Hair of the Dog, and Led Zeppelin 4.
It
and
would have
Thundersteel.
got I don't entirely know. It would have beaten Thundersteel. It would have beaten Led Zeppelin 4, would have beaten Blizzard of Oz. Yeah, I think so. I think it might not, maybe it might not have gone quite as far, but I think it probably would have lost out to Hair of the Dog, I think. Wish You Were Here probably would have, mainly because that album is just so short. That's probably its biggest problem. But Dark Side of the Moon, it's the perfect length. Maybe, I think maybe it could have been a little bit longer, but I mean, if it was longer, then that would have just been more excuse for filler.
It could have risked dragging.
It could risk dragging. And I mean, I guess Tyler would even argue that maybe it drags a little bit as it is. But Dark Side of the Moon, to me, is one of my favorite albums of all time, and definitely maybe with argumentation, maybe with debate with Hair of a Dog, my favorite album of all time.
Well, it did
at least
beat
on
Hair
this
of a Dog,
list.
so
I mean, at least on this list. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. So if you don't have anything else to say, I can start mine.
yeah. I do have one last thing to say. There is no Dark Side of the Moon. All right, go on.
Really? I guess wouldn't there technically be, because the sun like flies at one angle and not
It's
the
a
other?
quote from the thing. All right, it's a quote from the album at the very end.
Oh, is it? I didn't actually
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Here I was touting the lyrics. I didn't even know the final words of the album. Yeah, so
I've been mad for fucking years.
Still debating this, honestly. Like, these two albums are so amazing, and they're amazing in same and different ways. You know, like, they both do their things equally as amazing. But if I were to have to choose between the two of them,
I gave you ample fucking time to make that decision.
and I'm still debating it,
Oh my god.
I'm going to pick Opeth, I
Oh.
think. So, you tried.
I tried.
You tried. Yeah, I think Opeth. All right. So he told you a story about how he first listened to Dark Side of the Moon. I'll tell you how I got into this record. So I was getting into prog. You guys who have been on this channel would know I have a series called Getting into Prog. Well,
Where you
I was
get
getting
into
into
prog.
prog.
Well, where are you getting into prog in that Getting into Prog series? Is my real question.
Somebody's like, I had said to somebody who listens to prog that I really want to listen to like progressive metal in like the more heavy extreme sense, right? Because I was thinking, how would that work, right? Well, this person recommended me listen to Opeth, and I did. I listened to Blackwater Park. That was the album that I listened to. And after listening to that album 2-3 times, I decided that I really, really did not like Opeth. It was really aggressively not my thing. I didn't like the riffs. I hated the vocals. Everything about it was just revolting to me. I despised it. It was actually painful to listen to. And then when I was doing Getting into prog, one of the weeks I had to do Opeth. And so I said, okay, fine. I've listened to Blackwater Park 3 times already. What's 1 or 2 more times? See if I can get into it. Well, I listened to it twice more, and I still hated it. I even told him this. I walked to him one day, and I was like, yeah, so you know I'm doing Opeth? Well, I mean, it's great fucking music, but I hate it. I despise it. And I listened to Still Life, and the first time I heard this album, I hated it too. It didn't do anything for me. Honestly, I liked it more than Blackwater Park on my first listen. I really hated Blackwater Park, but I still didn't like it. I listened to it in the library, and I was like, I can see how people like this shit, but my entire video is just going to be summarized by saying, I'm glad I heard it, but I hate it and everything it stands for. All right. And that was, I think I resigned myself to that. And then one night I was studying in the middle of the night, and I was like, fuck it. I'll give it one last listen. I listened to Blackwater Park 5 times. I can give Still Life one more chance. And so I did. And, you know, what did you say about Dark Side of the Moon changing your life? That was my experience with this record. I put on these exact headphones, which are very high quality headphones, by the way. They were
Weird
like
flex,
$70.
but okay. Weird flex, but okay.
They're really good headphones. They were like $70.
I was just going on about how I used taped up headphones that were broken and crushed, and you're like, oh yeah, I got $70 headphones. They're amazing.
Way better than your stitched up bullshit headphones. No, but I listened through these amazing headphones, and I did it in the middle of the night. and I did it while I was working on schoolwork, and like I couldn't focus on my schoolwork because I was just entranced by this album. This album, more so than anything else on this list, truly changed my taste in music. After listening to this album, I explored so many more things that I would have never listened to before, like death metal, grindcore, so many things that I would never have listened to before. Napalm Death, I got into after this. I got into Morbid Angel. I got into Emperor. It's a black metal band. I hate black metal, by the way. You know, it's really changed my life and widened my horizons in that way. But beyond that, it's influenced me. You know, the use of acoustic guitars has influenced me to want to learn to do fingerstyle guitar. And I've been learning that for the past 2 days, and I'm going to be doing that for the foreseeable future. And I want to use acoustic guitars in my music, similar to how Opeth does. You know, I love the way that this album tells a story. A lot of albums tell a story. Metropolis Part 2, I've gone on record as saying, is one of the best, if not the best, concept album ever made. Well, Metropolis Part 2 can suck a fucking dick. Still Life is taking that title now.
Holy
And the
shit.
simple reason for that is Metropolis Part 2. People say, okay, Metropolis Part 2 is the best concept album of all time. Why? Because instead of being obsessed with the story and like telling an amazing story, they cared about the music, and the story came second. Well, that meant that the story had problems. The music was amazing, but the story, you know, there were plot holes, there were parts of it that just didn't work. Still Life, they didn't have to prioritize. The music was every bit as good as Metropolis Part 2, maybe better, and the story was definitely way better. Everything meshed. This album has such a way of painting imagery in your brain. The song Moonlapse Vertigo, didn't even read the lyrics, had no idea what it was about. I listened to the first riff, and immediately I pictured a black, stormy night with the main character hiding out in a castle. And then I read the lyrics, and guess what? Guess what it was about?
Was it about
The
a
main character.
Was it about a dark, stormy night in a castle, and the main character
Yes.
was doing something,
Yes,
probably
that is
masturbating?
exactly what it was about. I've never had that before in an album. I've never had a song be able to paint a picture musically before the lyrics even kicked in. That's amazing to me. How did they pull that? I don't even know how they pulled that off. Even in classical pieces like Vivaldi's Four Seasons, where they're supposed to be painting pictures of like, you know, spring and whatever else, until I read the poem, like it just didn't click for me. But this was immediate, you know? Hey, I gave you your spot. You give me mine.
God, you take forever with your order.
It's just in every song on it. Every song from The More, which has one of the best build-ups to an album ever. It starts with that really creepy jazz atmosphere. It makes you picture the outcast walking to back to the town through the moor. And then it builds up and it introduces acoustic guitars and then electric guitars, and finally, boom, one of the most horrifying screams you've ever heard in your life. It gets super fucking heavy and it just takes you on a journey. And then from there you go into Godhead's Lament. What an amazing song that is. It builds up the entire time to that final chorus, and when it finally hits you, it's so impactful. After that, you take a trip into acoustic land with Benighted, one of my favorite ballads of all time. The fingerstyle way that he uses the acoustic guitar in Opeth is really very unique, and that song in particular is just the chord progression, the way that he phrases the notes, everything about it is great. His voice, oh, Mikkel Ackerfeld has such an amazing voice. He's a great screamer. He has amazing death growls, but just singing in general, he's just got an amazing, soothing, calming kind of voice. Then you go from there into Moonlapse Vertigo, and then The Face of Melinda, and Serenity Painted Death. Fuck, that song is a headbanger. And then you end the album with White Cluster. it's just a masterpiece from front to back. And as much as I want to sit here and say Burnt Offerings is even close to the quality of that, I just can't. I can't even like think of Burnt Offerings as hitting the same dimension as Still Life. So yeah, that's been my rant on Still Life. If you want more specific things about this album that I have said, and also Blackwater Park, I have Getting Into Prague Opeth for that. The entire video I spent going through every single track of this album and every single track of Blackwater Park. And you'll definitely get a better idea of the story if you watch that video as well, because I'm not going to outline that here. I will tell you it's a very Shakespearean tale. It's very well told. But yeah,
And
that's
with
my
that,
top album.
And with that, I would like to say we have not been recording this entire time. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I would have killed you. You got me for a second. Shit.
Eat a dick, Tyler. Anyway. Right, so my top pick out of all of these albums is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. His top pick, not that you couldn't possibly fucking tell, but it is Still Life by Opeth.
Actually, I changed my mind. It's Burnt Offerings.
Oh my god. I want to see the 15-minute soliloquy as to how the fuck that works.
Give like...
Now, as it turns out, as I was second guessing myself, I realized that Still Life is actually a piece of shit.
The best album on this list is truly Meatloaf.
Obviously.
Yep.
How could I have been so blind?
There you go. Meatloaf, top spot.
Thank you. Thank fucking God. So much
You zoom in.
So much Leetmoth.
Me zoom in on this amazing album.
Yes. Ah, damn it.
God, I hate this album. Look at this album. Fuck this album. I don't care about that.
Fucking.
I only want to see Meatloaf.
Fucking Turnt Offerings or whatever.
All three picks should be Meatloaf.
Yes.
Songs by Jim Steinman. Who the fuck is Jim Steinman?
He's the greatest songwriter of all time.
Is?
I don't know.
Is that what Meatloaf's real name is?
Yeah, I wonder why you went with Meatloaf. I mean, Jim Steinman is such a great name. All right, so
oh god.
I would ask if you had anything more to say, but honestly, I don't think we could bear to hear much more. This has been Logan and what's his face, and we will see you.
Bro?
We will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.